Greetings everyone, it's Kaz here. I hope you're all having a lovely day. So I'm here with a bit of an interesting news update, and that is the fact that now Outlast 2 has officially been banned in my home nation of Australia. The horror game was refused classification and at this stage will not be released in the country. The game being refused classification essentially means that now it can't be rated, but the Australian Classification Board has released a statement saying that Outlast 2 has been identified to depict, express or otherwise deal with matters of sex, drug misuse or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults to the extent that they should not be classified. So the reason behind this is because apparently there are certain scenes or a scene in Outlast 2 that depict implied sexual violence, which our classification board clearly isn't happy with. So Outlast 2 was meant to be releasing on April 25th. It will continue to do so all around the world, except not right now in Australia. The Australian Classification Board did note that they would consider rating the game R18+, which is our highest rating that you can classify a game here in Australia, and therefore that would allow it to be released, and that would only be the case if those particular scene or scenes are removed from the game. So now we're at a point where it is in the hands of the developer of Outlast 2 to see if they are willing to alter the game, a special Australian version of the game, so it can be released here. And obviously, unfortunately, that isn't a new thing that's happened. We have seen it happen before for us Aussie gamers. We've seen scenes get altered in games like South Park, The Stick of Truth, among other little things, like in Fallout 3, the name of morphine had to be changed. So we have seen games get altered, whether it be all across the board or just for an Australian version. I feel like this is a pretty complex issue. Our classification system is obviously very unique in a bad sense, in the way that it is always and only us that they have these classification or censor issues. And I think it really is a problem. Now, the fact that Outlast 2 has been banned doesn't actually affect me at all. I wasn't ever going to get this game. I'm not interested in horror games, so I'm definitely not interested in the title. But I am very sorry for those Australian gamers who were looking forward to playing it and now will not most likely not be able to do so. Unless, of course, the developer decides to cooperate with us. But honestly, if I was on the developer's end of things, I wouldn't be willing to do it unless Australia was a market that they could definitely profit from and that was worth doing financially. I wouldn't be willing to bother with it, to be honest. But talking on the issue as a whole of our classification system, these bans of games wouldn't bother me as much as they are if it was a common thing across many countries in the world. But no, that isn't the case. It is always only Australia, which is of course prompting people to pick on our government, and I can't blame them, but it's always Australia that's been targeted for these kind of things. It really just highlight the seemingly major flaw that exists in our rating system currently. I mean, the R18+ rating, which is our highest rating, was only permitted to be used for video games a few years ago. Let that sink in. They wouldn't let the R18+ rating be used on video games, meaning that anything that would not be permitted for anyone over 50 would be refused classification. Which means, of course, even though the issue is definitely a prominent one now, it was even worse back then. So I guess we have made some progress in that sense, and I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of it all, of course, but it is clear that our country is still very far behind in this field of classification for video games. I personally believe that it is silly that gamers are able to be banned at all from purchasing a game under any circumstance whatsoever, no matter what content is included in that video game. If a game or any other media, whether it be a movie or TV show or whatever it may be, has a rating on the cover or the box of that product and it clearly states the content that is contained within it, then it is the consumer's responsibility and choice on whether or not they should purchase that respective product. It isn't up to the Australian government to be deciding for us whether or not we should purchase something or whether or not something's right for us. That's just really absurd in my opinion. But what do you guys think of all this Australian classification mumbo jumbo with them constantly banning games? Make sure you let me know in the comments section below. Thank you all very much for watching today's video. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.